The MLS regular season is finally here. And today I'm going to be giving my Western Conference predictions. Who's going to finish first all the way to the 15th place, last place in the Western Conference. A lot of good teams in the Western Conference. It is a little bit more of a top heavy conference than the Eastern Conference, which is a lot deeper. But I do think that it's going to be very, very competitive in 2026. But before I get to that, please make sure you guys like this video down below if you haven't already. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are 100 subscribers away from 12,000. We're getting very close. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. So let's go ahead and get into it. At number 15, I have Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City was a team that was absolutely terrible. They're near the bottom of the 2025 season, and I don't think things are really going to change until the new ownership gets fully implemented and they start spending maybe some money in the summertime. But as of right now, I think they're the worst team in the Western Conference. They hired Raphael Wicki, who was the former Chicago Fire manager. He didn't have success there. They didn't make the playoffs in his entire stint with the Chicago Fire. Maybe he'll have better luck with Sporting Kansas City once they spend more. And maybe it was just a bad fit in Chicago. I'm a little skeptical about recycling coaches in MLS who don't have a track record of winning. They do have Jovic still. They lost Eric Tommy. This team just feels like it's very bandaged together. And I don't think they're going to be any better than they were in 2025. I think they're going to struggle in MLS in 2026. But this new owner, very wealthy, says he's committed to spending money. We'll see what happens in the summertime. But as of now, as currently constructed, I mean, they did sign Lasse Berg Johnson from Malmo. We'll see what he can do. I'm not expecting him to do much, but we'll see what they do in 2026. At number 14, I have St. Louis City SC. Now, this one was a tough one. This was one where I could have maybe they could have been interchangeable with Sporting Kansas City. The poor Missouri, Kansas teams. They're both not looking too good heading into the season. They traded away João Klaus to the LA Galaxy, which we'll talk about later. They did re-sign Roman Berkey, but it just feels like this team has really screwed themselves since they fired Bradley Cardinal in the middle of the 2024 season. They've really never rebounded. Olaf Melberg was terrible coach last year. They fired him last year, not even a full season. They've hired Yoann Damme from the Columbus Crew, who is an assistant under Wilfried Nancy. We'll see what he can do, but I'm very skeptical because they just haven't really invested the money you need to take the next step. They had a great season in their inaugural season in 2023. They haven't been able to capture that magic since then. And they're going to have to spend some money if they want to do that. So we'll see what they do. But I got St. Louis City SC at number 14. At number 13, a team that I was very bullish on ignorantly in 2025 because they had Lucho Acosta. They had Peter Musa, who's a great goal scorer. But Eric Quill, their manager, was very skeptical about him. I don't think he's that good. And they ended up being really bad last year. And they got rid of Lucho Acosta. He didn't even make it a full year with FC Dallas. I don't think they're going to be much better, even though they do have Peter Musa. Peter Musa, the Moose, is very, very, very good goal scorer. I don't even know if he'll be there by summertime. He might play for Croatia at the World Cup, and I think there's a good chance he might be sold to a European team this summer, especially if his stock keeps rising. So I don't think FC Dallas is going to be much better, and their stadium is still under renovation, which shouldn't matter, but it really can hinder the fan excitement, the environment, the home field advantage. It just feels like not only is the stadium under renovation, but the team is as well. And I don't really expect them to blossom or be very competitive until they have that stadium completely renovated, and maybe they'll add some pieces to try to fix this. Like I said, Lucho Acosta was supposed to be a big time signing last year. He was very good with Cincinnati, never really captured that magic. I thought him and Peter Musa would be cooking, but we'll see. But if they don't make the playoffs this year, I expect them to move off of Eric Quill. I'll be curious to see what direction they go into, but I got FC Dallas at number 13. At number 12, I have the Colorado Rapids. Now, they did fire Chris Armas in the offseason. Chris Armas is a guy who has been he's been a recycled manager. That was his third stint in MLS as a manager. He'd been with the Toronto FC, New York Red Bulls, and it hadn't worked out for him. So what they did was they're taking the Minnesota United route. They hired Matt Wells, who was an assistant with Tottenham Hotspurs. We'll see what he can do in his first stint as a manager. Here's the problem. It can either go really, really good or it could go really, really bad. You really just never know what you're going to get with a guy who's never coached this league, who's never been a manager before. But we'll see. I mean, like I said, it worked with Eric Ramsey. They do have some good players. They signed Paxton Aronson, who I do think is going to be much better in year 2. Didn't really do much in year 1, but he did come in kind of late. Still have Zach Steffen. Still have some key pieces. We'll see. Now, they did trade Cole Bassett or sold him to Portland for $3.7 million. Not sure how much they'll miss him, but they're just going to have some of these guys step up in 2026 if they want to be competitive, and they're going to have better managing. Matt Wells, I don't know if he'll be better than Chris Armas. We'll have to see, but he'll have his chance, and we'll see what he can get out of Paxton Aronson, who they did spend a record fee for $8 million this past August. So I have them at number 12, Colorado Rapids. At number 11, I have RSL. Now, RSL is a team that was competitive last year. They showed some bright spots. Diego Luna, obviously, USMNT regular. Pablo Mastroeni is a veteran in MLS, is a manager. Starting to wonder if his time's coming to an end. Now, they did make a big signing in signing Guy Lavogie, who I think could be good for them. They spent $5 million on him. I just don't know if RSL has enough to really. They could be competing for a playoff spot. And I said this in my Eastern Conference video. 7 through 10 or 11 are kind of interchangeable. They could be all competing for a playoff spot. I just don't know if RSL did enough to truly compete and be one of the top 9 teams to make the playoffs. But they're right there. They are definitely right there. If they sell Diego Luna this summer, which totally could happen, I'm a little worried about them. And I do think if they miss the playoffs in 2026, that Pablo Mastroeni will probably be let go. We'll see. RSL was very good a couple years ago. They were like when they first traded for Chicho Arango in 2025. They were looking really good. Or was it 20? It was actually 2024. Excuse me, 2024. That was a very good team, and they haven't been able to capture that magic that they had in 2024. So we'll see what happens with them. At number 10, I have San Jose. San Jose is led by the GOAT, Bruce Arena. Now, this team had a lot of expectations in 2025. They traded for Chicho Arango. They signed Joseph Martinez. They had Christian Espinosa, and they had Bruce Arena in his first season. Things didn't go according to plan. They had a really good start to the season, and they fell off really hard and ended up not making the playoffs. Well, Chicho Arango is gone. Joseph Martinez is gone. Christian Espinosa is gone. Now, Christian Espinosa is someone I think they would have liked to have kept. Very good player. Signed with Nashville SC. Even though I think him and Bruce Arena really didn't see eye to eye. That's a mistake. I think he's one of the better players in MLS. Very underrated. They're going to miss him. But they did sign Timo Werner. Now, Timo Werner, I wouldn't bet on him, honestly, because he hasn't scored double-digit goals, I think, since the 2019-2020 season with Leipzig. So he really hasn't ever recaptured that form. Now, I guess if there's a person that could help him recapture that form, it would be someone like Bruce Arena in a league like MLS. But I'm just curious about what service he's going to get, how he's going to adjust. Is he going to be able to be of that quality again? Now, he is only 29. He'll be 30 very soon. I guess we'll see. I'm not upset about the Timo Werner move. I mean, it is a little weird that he's a DP. Not that obviously he's worth a DP, but is he worth a DP in MLS? Because you only get 3 spots. And if he fails, you're stuck with him for a little bit. So, and is he going to be much better than Chicho Arango or Joseph Martinez when they were playing well? We'll see. I got San Jose at number 10, just right outside of the playoff contention. Number 9, I have the Houston Dynamo. Ben Olsen, another coach that's going to be coaching for his job in 2026. Missed the playoffs in 2025 after making the playoffs in 2023. and 2024. Now, they made a big signing in signing Matty Bogusz, who was a very good player for LAFC in 2023 and 2024. Went to Cruz Azul in 2025, failed, and came back to MLS 1 year later. Now, I think Matty Bogusz, if he can play like his 2024 self for the Houston Dynamo, that is great news for the Houston Dynamo. But that remains to be seen. They paid, I think, $7-8 million for him, and they're expecting him to be the guy. Him and Ezequiel Ponce are the two faces of the Houston Dynamo in 2026. They also brought back Hector Herrera, I think, for some veteran leadership. Now, Hector Herrera, it's kind of funny because Hector Herrera's last moment with the Houston Dynamo was him spitting on the foot of a ref. So maybe it's not the exact type of veteran leadership you'd like, but I think that's in the past. I think it's water under the bridge at this point. But if you look at what they're doing, they're trying to get some stability and they're trying to get a foundation built where resilience, right? Having veterans in the locker room is never a bad thing, right? So I think they're trying to get something, a solid foundation with some great MLS experience and also like a good mixture of everything. And they also signed a DP Albertson from, I think it was Vasco da Gama. They signed him. I don't know what he's going to do. He's more like he's a striker, but he's also going to play on the wing. But it's really going to depend on Matty Bogusz and Ponce in 2026 if they're going to do anything. Now, if they don't make the playoffs, I fully expect Ben Olsen to get the boot, as well as he should. Missing the playoffs 2 years in a row in MLS is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Okay, at number 8, I have the Seattle Sounders. Now, there's going to be a lot of people upset with me saying, Will, how do you have the Seattle Sounders at 8? You're a hater. You always downplay what the Sounders do. You can never say anything positive about them. The Sounders are a very good historic team, but this year they have not done enough to be better. They were in 5th place in 2025. They lost Obed Vargas. They lost Danny Leyva, and they didn't make any significant additions. When you lose arguably your best player, and Obed Vargas and Christian Roldan were the glue to this team in 2025, I expect them to take a step back. Now, they did sign Nikola Petkovic on loan from Charlotte FC, but I just don't think that's going to be enough. And I think they're going to have to make some moves this summer if they truly want to compete for MLS Cup. And Craig Weibel has not made a summer signing in the last 4 years. So that leaves me no room to be confident that they're going to change things this summer. So that's why I'm down on this team. And I wouldn't blame Brian Schmetzer because a cook is only as good as his ingredients. And they're not really providing him with much. So we'll see what the Sounders do. But as the team is currently constructed, I'm not high on them. I got them finishing 8th in the Western Conference. I know people are going to be upset with that. People will say they won Leagues Cup, but they also got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. No one wants to talk about that. They lost in the first round of the playoffs to Minnesota United. Nobody wants to talk about that. That's the last thing that happened. The most recent thing that happened. So we'll see what happens with the Seattle Sounders in 2026. At number 7, I have Minnesota United. Now, I expect them to fall back a little bit as well. They were the 4th seed in 2025, but they lost their manager who went back to Europe, went back to the UK. And I'm not really sure. And they also lost Dane St. Clair. They have Drake Callender now, which we'll see what he can do. It's kind of like a transition year, right? They lost Dane St. Clair. They lost their manager. They did sign James Rodriguez for 6 months, which was a big deal. A very random signing, honestly. I think everyone can admit that's a very random signing. If I told you James Rodriguez was coming to MLS, I don't think anyone was picking Minnesota United, especially because he complained about the cold in Bayern, at Bayern when he was there. So this is going to be an interesting season. I do think they're going to take a little bit of a step back, but they're still going to be a playoff team in 2026. And James Rodriguez's deal is only till June. So I'm going to be curious to see if he's going to end up staying the rest of the year. I guess it really depends. The club has an option to extend him past June. I guess it's really going to depend on how he plays in the first couple months of his Minnesota United career. They also signed Kyle Duncan for some depth. We'll see what he can do as well. So I got Minnesota United at number 7. At number 6, I have the Portland Timbers. Now, the Portland Timbers bought Cole Bassett they bought him from the Colorado Rapids. They bought out Jonathan Rodriguez, who was injury prone. He was like 32, 33 years old. And they also signed Brandon Bai. They did sell David Ayala to Inter Miami, but I'm really curious to see what Costa does this year for them. I mean, he was the guy that they signed to replace Evander, and I don't think he really ever got a chance to fully settle in with this Portland Timbers team. But this Portland Timbers team made the playoffs in 2020 and 2025, and I think they will be better in 2026 with all these pieces that can gel together. And they're doing the MLS veteran route. Now, if they do struggle this year, I expect there to be some wholesale changes. Phil Neville will be fired, and they'll have another manager. You know, this will be their third manager in the last 3 or 4 years. So we'll see what happens with them. I think that they will be a competitive team, but I have them at 6th in the Western Conference. At number 5, I have Austin FC. Austin FC is a team I wasn't very high on last year. They had Uzuni, they had Berkey, they had Brandon Vasquez as their DPs. And they freed up a DP spot this offseason, and they honestly tried to free up 2 with Uzuni, but they couldn't get a deal done to send him back to Europe. But they did sign Facundo Torres, who is a proven MLS player from Orlando City. He went to Palmeiras. It didn't work out. He's back in Major League Soccer playing at Austin FC. I think he'll be a good addition for them. I don't think he's going to be as good as Driussi. Driussi was the guy, right? That was when Austin FC was really rolling. But I think he's going to be good. They also traded for Jaden Nelson from Vancouver, who I like a lot. His pace is nuts. I love Jaden Nelson. So they got some good depth there, and they got a good player in Facundo Torres. We'll see what happens. And plus, we have to see how long is it going to take for Brandon Vasquez to come back from his torn ACL. And how is he going to look? That's something that I want to see. But we'll see what they do. I don't like Nico Estevez. I don't think he was a good manager with FC Dallas, and he got a job immediately with Austin FC. We'll see what he can do. And look, there's a theme here. I've said numerous times, I don't think the coaching in MLS is good, and there needs to be accountability. A lot of these guys are starting the season on the hot seat because they didn't meet expectations in 2025. Now, Nico Estevez, if he doesn't deliver with this team, he will probably be fired. But we'll see. They're going to give him a chance, and we'll see what he can do in 2026. He's got the players to compete. Let's see if he can deliver. Okay, at number 4, I have the LA Galaxy. LA Galaxy were atrocious last year. They had their worst season as a club. And I thought that Greg Vanney should have been fired when they went winless in their first 17 matches. But he is one lucky man, and he was able to not only keep his job, but get an extension. Most unheard of thing I've ever seen in soccer or any sport, to be honest. But Will Kuntz and him have made some changes, and they have made this team better. They traded for João Klaus from St. Louis City SC to get a striker up top because they never had a true replacement when they lost Dejan Joveljic to Sporting Kansas City last year. They had to get rid of him because they couldn't keep him. They couldn't afford to keep him. So they sold him to Sporting Kansas City. So they finally have a striker. They signed Eric Tommy, who was good with Sporting Kansas City. I'm not expecting him to be too good, but I mean, he's a good depth piece. They trade for Jacob Glesnes, who is an MLS best 11 starting center back. They need center back help badly because Maya Yoshida, I think, is done. And so that's good. They signed Justin Hack, who can play center back and play as a defensive midfielder. So they're adding depth, and I think they're going to be a deeper team this year in 2026. Now, the one thing that sucks for the Galaxy is that Ricky Puig tore his ACL for a second season in a row. Absolutely gut-wrenching that happened for the LA Galaxy. They were really looking forward to getting Ricky back. But he has torn his ACL. He will miss his second consecutive season, and they're kind of scrambling to figure things out to make this team competitive. Now, they do still have Marco Royce. We'll see what he can do. They got Gabriel Peck. They got Joseph Paintsel. They still have some pieces, but there's also a rumor right now about Filippo Coutinho. We'll see if they can sign him as well, but I'm kind of skeptical about that. But regardless of, this team should be better in 2026, and they should have been better in 2025. That was inept coaching on Greg Vanney's part. I have them at number 4 in my Western Conference predictions. At number 3, I have San Diego FC. San Diego FC is a team that took the league by storm in 2025. Incredible expansion season. Mikey Veras, Anders Dreyer, take a bow. Like, just incredible, incredible, incredible performance by those by the coach and by the player in 2026 that had led them to one of the better seasons for an expansion team that I've ever seen. And the one problem is that Chucky Lozano, who was supposed to be the guy, never panned out. And now that he's kind of been exiled. They don't really want him on the team, but they're stuck with him because of his deal. So I do think they're going to take a little bit of a step back. They did trade for Lewis Morgan, who gets injured. He's played pretty well for the Red Bulls the last couple of years when he's healthy, but he gets injured a lot. He's injury prone. I think they're going to take a step back because most expansion teams do in their second year. I don't think they're going to be really bad because Anders Dreyer is like probably the third best player in the league. He might be the second best player in the league. So they're not going to fall off a cliff as in quality, but I just don't think they're going to be good enough as currently constructed to be the first or second best team in the Western Conference. I have San Diego FC at number 3. You guys let me know what you guys think about my list so far. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Where would you have some of these teams? Where would you have San Diego FC? At number 2, we have LAFC. Now, some people were upset with me having them in my worst offseason list. And let me explain this. I never said LAFC were going to be bad. I just said they had a disappointing offseason and it should have been better. They still have Son Heung-min. They still have Denis Bouanga. They're still going to be really good. So just because their offseason was bad doesn't mean I'm going to have them at like 6th or 7th or 10th in the Western Conference or 15th. I'm just saying that they didn't live up to the expectations that I had and many other people had. And they also had a very underwhelming, even if he ends up being good, anyone saying that this was not an underwhelming hire at manager is lying. Mark Dos Santos was an underwhelming hire. That's just a fact. But if he's good, he's good. We'll see what happens. I have at number 2 because they have the first or second best player in the league in Son Heung-min. And Denis Bouanga is the top 5 player as well. They have the best duo in the league. They do. And I think that this team is going to look even better in year 2 because they have a full season of Son Heung-min and Denis Bouanga playing together. Denis Bouanga was rumored to be leaving possibly. A lot of interest from Fluminense trying to buy him. And there was other rumors about Inter Miami trying to buy him. None of those materialized. They did sign Estacio on loan from Porto. We'll see what he can do. He looked really good in his first game. They trade for Jacob Schaffelberg. They've got Boudry, this young Swiss, number 10. We'll see what they can do. I just wish they would have done more. They're chasing Miami, and it just feels like the gap is a little bit further than you would like it to be. And they had a chance to change it this offseason. They didn't. They actually play Saturday. We'll see what happens. So I have LAFC at number 2 in my Western Conference predictions. At number 1, I have the current Western Conference champion of 2025, the Vancouver Whitecaps. The Vancouver Whitecaps shocked the league in 2025 for many, many reasons. First off, they made it to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. They lost 5-0 to Cruz Azul, which wasn't good, but, they made it. I don't think anybody predicted that. And then they signed Thomas Muller, and then they made a run to the MLS Cup final. They had an incredible season in 2025. They had the best season in the existence of the club. And I expect them to have a good season in 2026 as well. They'll have a full season of Thomas Muller. They did sell Ali Ahmed, who has been playing very well at Norwich, by the way. But they have Ryan Gauld, who'll be back, who had been injured most of the season. He's going to probably take Ali Ahmed's starting spot. And they signed Bruno Caicedo on a U22 deal. They've added some more depth pieces. I think this team is going to be very, very good in 2026. I think they're still going to be the best team in the Western Conference. Now, I do think they might miss Jaden Nelson a little bit. I thought he was good. There was rumors about them possibly trying to get rid of Tristan Blackman, which was a little puzzling. Takaoka was rumored to be leaving as well, but they were able to keep all those players. All those players they were able to keep. I think they're going to be good because you know something else? They have the best manager in MLS. Jesper Sorensen is the best manager in MLS, and he proved it in his first year. And I think the Vancouver Whitecaps are going to be the number one team out of the Western Conference in 2026. Let me know what you guys think about my list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know what your 1 through 15 is. Who do you think is going to have the best record, the worst record? Let me know down below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like this video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you guys check out my Eastern Conference video if you haven't watched it already. Let me know what you think about that one as well. Also, hit the little bell notification so you never miss a video. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.